Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to take a look at 10 of the greatest rock and metal soundtracks in movies. At number 10, let's get things started here with a fun, lighthearted one, and that's This Is Spinal Tap, the official soundtrack here from the parody movie from 1984. Spinal Tap are hilarious, and some of the songs on here, like Stonehenge, Tonight I'm Gonna Rock You Tonight, and Big Bottom, are probably why the band's popularity wasn't waning, but the appeal was getting more selective. But nonetheless, turn this soundtrack all the way up to 11. It's a lot of fun. At number 9, let's go with Who Made Who by ACDC. This album is the official soundtrack to the Stephen King film Maximum Overdrive. ACDC are Stephen King's favorite band, and the movie was a financial flop at the time of its release, but the soundtrack here is a fine collection of ACDC tracks, including some new songs like Who Made Who, DT, and Chase the Ace, in addition to classics on here like Ride On, Hell's Bells, Shake Your Foundation, Sink the Pink, all of which appear in snippets in the movie. So really solid stuff here. And when I'm ranking ACDC albums, and I've done that in the past, I've actually done it twice, I have not included Who Made Who because I consider it a collection more than anything, but still very solid here, and some fantastic tracks on here, making for a killer soundtrack. Following that up now at number 8, let's go with Heavy Metal, music from the motion picture here, of course from the 1981 movie Heavy Metal, which I guess has kind of become a bit of a cult classic movie over time, despite getting mixed reviews upon its release. But the soundtrack is awesome, featuring Sammy Hagar performing Heavy Metal. You have a live version of The Mob Rules by Black Sabbath, Open Arms by Journey, Blue Lamp by Stevie Nicks, Reach Out by Cheap Trick, Veteran of the Psychic Wars by Blue Oyster Cult, and more. Big thanks to my buddy Mikey over from the Mikey's Morgue channel, who recommended to me a few of these soundtracks for this list, for some great rock, metal, and horror commentary and recommendations. He's definitely the man to see, so definitely go ahead and check out his channel. But thanks again, man. And so here's one of his picks coming in at number 7 on the list. I'm going to go with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre soundtrack to the remake from 2003. It's a fantastic collection of heavy tracks from the popular nu metal scene of the early 2000s, including Below the Bottom by Hatebreed, Pig by Seether, Destroyer of Senses by Shadows Fall, Rational Gaze by Meshuggah, Stay in Shadow by Finger 11, and Immortally Insane by Pantera. I love the riff on that track so much, just a really solid soundtrack here, and no pun intended to the movie in question, but really killer selection of songs as well. Coming in at number 6, how about Lost Highway, the soundtrack album for the 1997 David Lynch film of the same name, produced by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. Lynch chose Reznor to produce this soundtrack, wanting it to feature artists that were inspirational to him and commercially viable as well. And so some songs on here include I'm Deranged by David Bowie, The Perfect Drug by Nine Inch Nails, I by Smashing Pumpkins, Ramstein by Ramstein, This Magic Moment by Lou Reed, and Apple of Sodom by Marilyn Manson, that make this one a classic soundtrack for sure. Top 5 now, we have another great recommendation from Mikey's Morgue. That's the 2003 soundtrack to Freddy vs. Jason. It's a great mix of, alternative metal, nu metal, industrial, and gothic metal, and the soundtrack was released on Roadrunner Records. It features 20 tracks, 14 of them which were previously unreleased by bands in question, and some standouts here include When Darkness Falls by Killswitch Engage, Snap by Slipknot is great, Inside the Cynic by Stone Sour, The Waste from Sepultura, Trigger by In Flames, 11th Hour by Lamb of God, and We Were Electrocute by Typo Negative. Number 4, I'm going with Gummo, the soundtrack to the 1997 film of the same name, and this contains songs that were recorded specifically for the album or were featured in the film. The soundtrack is pretty unique, and, it has a great balance of black metal, industrial, sludge metal, and death metal, from bands like Mortician, Bathory, Sleep, Burzum, and more, so that's really interesting. You don't hear, music from those subgenres of metal really included in a lot of movies, so to hear that is very interesting. It makes for a really unique collection of songs on this soundtrack from 97. Top 3 now with Singles, the original motion picture soundtrack here. Really important to, the overall growth of the Seattle grunge scene. This movie and the soundtrack really helped to open the door for the success of grunge and many bands in the Seattle rock scene into the mainstream, featuring on here Wood by Alice in Chains, Breath by Pearl Jam, you have Seasons by Chris Cornell, you have Battle of Evermore covered by the Lovemongers, Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns by Mother Love Bone, Birth Ritual by Soundgarden, State of Love and Trust by Pearl Jam, Waiting for Somebody, let's see here, Nearly Lost You by Screaming Trees is great as well, and then Drowned by Smashing Pumpkins. So just from top to bottom, it's a fantastic soundtrack in my opinion, and like I said, very important and significant to the growth of the Seattle scene in the early 90s as well. So getting us started in the top 3, I'm going to go with Singles. At number 2, I'm going with The Crow, the original motion picture soundtrack here. An amazing 90s metal soundtrack from one of my favorite movies of all time, released in 1994. The album includes an all-star lineup of artists, including Nine Inch Nails, who covered Joy Division's Dead Souls. You have Pantera, who covered The Poison Ideas, The Badge. Rollins Band, who covered Suicide's Ghost Rider. Rage Against the Machine re-recorded their 1992 B-side, Darkness of Greed, and renamed it Darkness for the soundtrack. And you also have the song Burn by The Cure and Big Empty by Stone Temple Pilots. So I'd say it's the most star-studded rock and metal soundtrack I can think of, but there's just one more, in my opinion, that's even better. And finally, coming in at number 1, I have to go with The Last Action Hero, music from the original motion picture here. This soundtrack is absolutely stacked with not just some of my favorite bands of all time, but some great tracks as well. You know, some artists specifically wrote tracks for, you know, this album here, for this movie, featuring Big Gun by ACDC, Real World by Queensryche, and The Last Action Hero by Tesla. You also have the classic Angry Again by Megadeth, What the Hell Have I, and A Little Bitter by Alice in Chains, plus tracks by Aerosmith, Anthrax, and Def Leppard. So what you have here is really a great mix of rock, grunge, and metal. So when blended all together here, it really makes for a great and diverse soundtrack full of, you know, just some fantastic bands. So that wraps up this list here of 10 great rock and metal soundtracks in movies. Wanted to do this countdown for a while now. This is not a movie channel. I am not super knowledgeable at movies or anything like that, but I do know good music when I hear it, and so I really do enjoy these soundtracks here, so I did want to share my thoughts here today. You know, you guys can see my picks right over here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and let me know down in the comment section below what are some of your favorite rock and metal soundtracks and movies. I definitely want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.